You are what you eat, a saying that is eons old. The current state of normalized food here in America is harmful, horrific, sad, and packed with chemicals. One chemical, such as TBHQ, is allowed a purity test with a max of 5 parts per million of lead. Persuasive et al. 2022. This type of information urges for a ban of additives and preservatives that are in our food right now. There are many other chemicals that are used in our favorite chips, cookies, and drinks that are used as flavor additives, shelf stabilizers, preservatives, color brighteners, enhancers, and much, much more. These chemicals are responsible due to the supply and demand from America that is required to produce a sustainable amount of food. Other countries such as Europe have banned chemicals with the likes of BHA and BHT, as well as potassium brominate. These are due to the increased risk of cancer growth that is associated with these. These are noted effects at high concentrations, as well as prolonged exposure, I would imagine. There are other molecules that affect our bodies negatively, sometimes, such as MSG and the aforementioned TBHQ. The solution is not to stop eating everything that is bad, as it's quite impossible to avoid everything, all the way down to pesticides and agriculture. But we can steer back towards growing our own food to help remove some of the, to help bring back transparency to ourselves. Here we will take a look at the negative impacts on the body from processed food. First, we will look at the effects on the brain and body, and then we will look at the effects that they have on DNA and RNA. Some negative effects of processed food on the brain is the disruption of neurotransmitters and certain biological systems. Most of these preservatives are endocrinological disruptors. The endocrine system is composed of many glands that help regulate our body's hormones for metabolism, as well as many other bodily functions. These glands include the pituitary, the pineal, the thyroid, the adrenal, and the hypothalamus, as well as many other glands. These glands are found all over your body, and some of them deep in the brain, such as the pineal gland, which sits behind our corpus callosum and helps with the endogenous production of melatonin, seer.com. With all that being said, the disruption of these glands may contribute to a decline in cognitive function, as well as social and emotional dysfunction disorders with the disruption. This is not to forget or to mention genetic predispositions also being enhanced. The disruption of the pineal gland, as you can see, is detrimental to our circadian rhythm, our natural sleep and wake cycle. Natural endogenous melatonin is absolutely imperative for a healthy night's sleep. Sleep is only one of the many important cycles that are being disrupted. These glands directly affect and regulate how much water we take in, our emotions, our temperature, our reproduction fluids, our reproduction parts, our kidneys, our bladder, anything that we need to be normal, it's going to affect. Next, let's look at how this affects the DNA and RNA. The effects that these chemicals have on our bodies is frequently studied in molecules that are found in our food on American shelves. One chemical that I mentioned before, TBHQ, tert-butyl hydroxyquinone, has reports that in high quantities, TBHQ causes harmful effects in animals that induce gastrointestinal tumors and damage DNA rings. Persuasive et al. 2017. This is frightening due to this being in Cheez-Its that is on our shelves and is a commonly given snack to children. Another commonly found molecule in our food is known as MSG. MSG is known to give an umami or savory kind of flavor. MSG acts directly on glutamate receptors and causes neurotransmitters to start firing when not needed. These receptors are from the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, and the amygdala, which are on the inner brain and communicate with the outer brain. These chemicals reside in Doritos as well as other savory snacks. This reminds me of neurochemistry reactions with drugs in humans and addiction. While MSG has some favorable and positive effects, it is also reported that there are abundant reports of harmful effects such as oxidative stress, protein modification, and lysis of stromal cells. Mustafa et al. 2017. I would take this to be some pretty strong indicators as why prolonged consumption is bad for us and should be outlawed. Promoting toxic substances to the public for ingestion is disturbing. Let us move forward to see how these molecules mess with our minds. Moreover, we will look at the negative impacts of these processed foods take on our mind. As you can see, some of the detrimental effects that can happen with prolonged consumption of processed food. If some of these chemicals act on our neurotransmitters, then best believe your mental health is going to be affected too. There are many studies that shown that ultra-processed food can lead to depression linked to individuals that consistently eat processed food. The chair of the Department of Nutrition at Harvard, T.H. Chan School of Public Health, quoted, "The vast majority of ultra-processed food are unhealthy, and the more of them you eat, the more chance of your risk of various diseases." Frank Hu, May 2023. This is fine in a perfect world, but it's hard to avoid these foods when we get stressed. This is where stress eating comes from. It is also noted that chronic inflammation is a common occurrence with processed food. Let's try to move towards a solution. The solution, you may ask? Personally, I'm going to try to persuade you to grow your own food and try to be more cautious about what you eat. Maybe it has to change your diet little by little, but I think this is the way. The pros are many and vast. We can decrease the chance of cancer all the way around when we switch our diet to more leafy greens, as well as keeping the proteins of animals in there and just not eating chemically packed food. We can also concurrently decrease the rate of obesity that is prevalent in America. I would hope that this can increase life expectancy. The more of a challenge than many problems at once. It is such a vast amount of people to feed that it would take a collective effort for us to truly change the current state of food. The supply and demand of America dominates, and therefore a lot of preserved foods are easier to produce to feed a nation. Time is also a huge factor that we have to consider. The amount of time to grow crops at a mass scale for oneself is not really sustainable, unless you have a proven system that can produce healthy and nutritious food for oneself. There is also the point of conveniency. It is much easier to drive to the store and shop. This makes part of the solution a deterrent, sadly. We can clearly see that chemicals are a major mover in the artificial food industry. It is much easier to mass produce a product that takes less time to manage and the output is more. The effects of these molecules at high concentrations is concerning due to the side effects that are being already linked to poor mental health and cognitive decline, as well as disrupting DNA and RNA sequencing that may increase tumor growth. The negative side effects of the preservatives are still being observed on the mind and body. This is another reason that they should be made illegal. We are not test subjects. I simply cannot force you to see differently. I can show you what I found, but that is it. You must make the decision on your own to discern what is good and what is bad. I do not think we need to be ingesting man-made chemicals into our bodies unless it is medically needed. Thank you for your time.